Holy smokes everyone, China is preparing for the unthinkable. In this video, I'm going to go over exactly what China is preparing for and why it's so important to us and how we can prepare, because this is big everyone. So everyone, let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into the news, the facts and the data. Now there is a new trend I'm starting to see in the global economy everyone. I don't know if you remember, but in November, China warned this. China was urging its people to stock up and prepare for winter. Now, people were speculating on a lot of different reasons why they're doing this, and they're saying, look, don't worry, we're just telling people to prepare for winter, nothing to worry about here. But we're getting new data and new news to see exactly what China is now doing. And from China stockpiling and also the central banks creating huge inflation, this is what's happening with food prices now, everyone. Look at this, everyone. This is absolutely crazy. World food prices are up 30% in a year. So it's definitely the most expensive holiday season this year for food. And this is an absolute disaster, everybody. 30%, that is absolutely insane. And simply people aren't going to be able to afford these higher costs. We're now starting to see in developed countries food insecurity and people having to decide whether having a roof over their head or food on the table. And like I keep talking about, this really shows how much the CPI is manipulated, because food costs are up 30%, housing costs are up 20%, but they're telling us the CPI is only 6.8%, maybe only for billionaires' luxury goods. So price increase for the third consecutive month in October, rising 3% over September. This is according to an index published by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. The grains were driven by a sharp rise in vegetable oils and wheat prices. Food supplies and prices are under pressure from extreme weather, snarled supply chains, worker shortages and rising costs. And I'll also just add in there the central banks also increasing the money supply by 27%. And so what is this leading to, everyone? The world is going to face its worst food crisis for at least 50 years, the UN warns. So it's definitely time to start paying attention and start preparing now, people, before it's too late. But again, going back to China and what they are doing. Have a look at this. China is hoarding over half the world's grain and pushing up global prices. So China knows there's going to be a food crisis and a coming famine, and they are preparing. While our leaders in the West, they don't seem to be preparing at all. They are relying on these supply chains, which we saw in 2020 and 2021 are so weak. But maybe this isn't all they are preparing for. We're seeing tensions rise with China and other countries, and maybe they could be preparing to hunker down for a bit. And a huge tactic that have played in many countries' conflicts is cutting off the other countries' food supply. So daily in China, less than 20% of the world's population has managed to stockpile more than half of the globe's maize and other grains, leading to steep price increases across the planet and dropping more countries into famine. So what this is leading to is China slowly gaining a monopoly on the global food supply. According to data from the US Department of Agriculture, China is expected to have 69% of global maize reserves in the first half of the crop year 2022, 60% of rice and 51% of wheat. People, this is very dangerous, everyone, because once they have this much power over the global food supply, they can demand any price they want. And so what I think their strategy is doing is they are seeing that there's going to be more and more inflation with food costs. So they are trying to get ahead of the curve and buy up everything and hoard everything now before the costs increase much higher. And this is something we should be doing personally as well, because hey, some people that have brought food 5-10 years ago that are non-perishable goods have had better returns than the S&P 500. China spent 98 billion importing food in 2020, up 4.6 times from a decade earlier. During to the September period of 2021, China imported more food than it had since at least 2016, which is as far back as comparable data goes. And we're also seeing in a lot of other Pacific islands or Pacific nations, Chinese fishing ships are taking over all the fishing locations and taking up all the fish supply. And in the US and in Australia, they're buying up massive amounts of farmland. Throughout history, food shortages have triggered popular unrest. They served as a contributing factor to the uprising that toppled Chinese dynasties, and the world's second largest economy now faces food uncertainties due to factors such as its deteriorating relationships with the US and Australia, which could drastically alter the import environment. In fact, this could be what is prodding China to boost its calorie reserves. And like I was saying earlier, everyone, and like I said here, the tensions between China, Australia, and the US are escalating rapidly. And just my kind of gut feeling, they are also preparing for a potential conflict. But this is what's happened in 2020 since the pandemic began. The number of people living in famine-struck regions topped 700 million in 2020, an increase of more than 100 million from 5 years earlier, according to the UN. Although developed nations as a whole are responsible for famine, China's responsibility is heavier. China should contribute to resolving the maldistribution of food. This is huge, everyone. Now, many people may just think this is just boring, talking about food prices. It's not as fun as talking about the markets and the economy, but this could have a big effect on the economy if food prices continue to skyrocket, because consumers aren't going to have the disposable income to spend on goods and services. And really, I think this is a big wake-up call that we need to prepare by getting our own food source and our own water source. Because I think in the coming famine, central banks aren't going to be able to print chicken tendies. So everyone, that's what's going on with China right now, with food costs skyrocketing. What do you think about this? Let me know. Now, for all my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. I'll put up some other videos here. I'll see you there.